Europe before Christ, the slow beginning of a continent. Long before Europe was called Europe, the land was a patchwork of tribes, migrations, and survival. Thousands of years before Christ, humans spread across the continent as hunter-gatherers, following animals, rivers, and seasons. Slowly, agriculture emerged, villages formed. Power was local, fragile, and temporary. There were no countries, no borders, only land controlled by strength, tradition, and belief. By the first millennium before Christ, Europe was already divided culturally. In the south, Mediterranean civilizations like the Greeks built cities, trade networks, and early forms of democracy. Philosophy, mathematics, and written history began to shape how humans understood power and society. In the center and north, Celtic and Germanic tribes dominated, organized around clans and warriors rather than cities. Trade existed, but war was constant. Europe grew not through unity, but through conflict and contact. The Roman transformation. Everything changed when Rome expanded. From a single city, Rome grew into an empire that reshaped Europe permanently. Roads, laws, taxation, currency, and centralized administration spread across the continent. Latin became the language of power. Cities expanded. Trade intensified. For the first time, much of Europe was connected under one political and economic system. But this unity was built on conquest. Rome absorbed territories through war, enslaved populations, and extracted resources. Over time, the empire grew too large to control. Internal corruption, economic strain, and external pressure weakened its foundations. By the 5th century after Christ, Rome collapsed in the West. Europe fractured again. The fall of Rome did not mean the fall of civilization, but it marked a shift. Central authority disappeared. Trade declined. Cities shrank. Power moved to local rulers, kings, and warlords. The Middle Ages, fragmentation, and faith. After Rome, Europe entered a long period of fragmentation. Kingdoms rose and fell quickly. Borders shifted constantly. Feudalism became the dominant system. Land meant power. Kings depended on nobles. Nobles depended on knights. And peasants worked the land with little freedom. The Catholic Church emerged as the most stable institution across Europe. While political borders changed, religion connected the continent. The Church influenced laws, education, morality, and even wars. Crusades were launched, not only to the Middle East, but also within Europe itself. Economically, Europe was slow, but steady. Agriculture improved. Trade routes reopened. Towns and guilds grew. By the late Middle Ages, a merchant class emerged, challenging the old feudal order. Plagues and famines killed millions, but they also reshaped society by weakening rigid hierarchies. The Renaissance and the rise of nation-states. Around the 14th century, Europe began to change again. The Renaissance revived interest in science, art, and classical knowledge. Humanism shifted focus from divine authority to human potential. Printing spread ideas rapidly. Exploration expanded Europe's reach beyond its borders. At the same time, centralized monarchies strengthened. France, England, Spain, and other emerging states began to define clearer borders and national identities. Armies became professional. Taxes became systematic. Europe was no longer just a collection of feudal lands. It was becoming a continent of competing states. Colonialism transformed Europe's economy. Wealth flowed in from the Americas, Africa, and Asia. This fueled growth, but it was built on exploitation, slavery, and violence. European powers grew rich while exporting instability elsewhere. Revolutions, industry, and nationalism. The 17th and 18th centuries brought upheaval. Religious wars devastated entire regions. Absolute monarchies faced resistance. The Enlightenment challenged traditional authority, promoting reason, individual rights, and political reform. The French Revolution marked a turning point. The idea that power belonged to the people spread across Europe. Monarchies fell or reformed. Nationalism emerged as a powerful force. People began to identify not just with rulers, but with nations. The Industrial Revolution transformed Europe faster than any previous period. Factories replaced farms. Cities exploded in size. Wealth increased, but so did inequality. New economic systems emerged. Capitalism expanded. Workers organized. Social tensions rose. Europe split ideologically and economically. Industrial powers surged ahead. Others lagged behind. Competition intensified. The age of total war. The 20th century shattered Europe. Nationalism, alliances, and imperial rivalry led to the First World War. Empires collapsed. Borders were redrawn. New countries appeared, often unstable and divided. Economic crisis followed. Extremist ideologies gained ground. The Second World War was even more destructive. Cities were destroyed. Tens of millions died. Europe lost its global dominance. After the war, the continent split again, this time ideologically. Western Europe rebuilt through cooperation and market economies. Eastern Europe fell under communist influence. The Iron Curtain divided Europe for decades. Reconstruction, integration, and modern Europe. Out of devastation came a new idea: cooperation instead of constant war. Economic integration began. Trade barriers fell. Former enemies became partners. This eventually led to the European Union, an attempt to bind economies so tightly together that war would become unthinkable. Eastern Europe rejoined the broader European system after the fall of communism. Borders stabilized, but tensions remained. Economic gaps persisted. Migration reshaped societies. Globalization tied Europe to the rest of the world more tightly than ever before. Europe today is not a single story. It is a continent shaped by thousands of years of growth, war, collapse, and rebuilding. Its countries exist because of conquest, compromise, revolution, and survival. Its economy reflects centuries of innovation and exploitation. Its borders are lines drawn by history's winners and survivors. Europe did not grow smoothly. It fractured, merged, split, and reinvented itself repeatedly. Understanding Europe means understanding that its strength has always come from tension between unity and division. The Europe of today is the result of everything that came before it: every empire, every war, every idea, every collapse. And like its past, its future will be shaped not by stability alone, but by how it responds to change.